Hey, thanks everyone for jumping in this morning. Brad asked me to last week to to talk about lead generation, and I'm going to give you a little my background so that we can sort of set the stage a little bit. If you don't know who I am, I'm Glenn Sanford, the founder and CEO of eXp Realty. But more importantly, in 2002, I actually started as a brand spanking new real estate agent. April 2002, and I focused 100% of my activities on internet lead generation. And so April 29th, I got licensed. Between April 29th and the end of the year, I sold 17 properties to clients I met online. I had, the way I came about it, and this is I guess we'll call it a mindset that may help some of you, but the mindset was to figure out what my business constraints were. And my business constraints is actually kind of easy to do because at the time I wasn't really excited about being in real estate. However, there was another gentleman that wanted to get me into real estate because I was helping him with his website. He was 64, I was 35, age-wise. I helped him with his website, started generating some leads. He didn't know what to do with them, even though he asked me to help him with his lead generation as his website. So he said, Glenn, you need to get your real estate license. And I quite literally said, Hugh, you got to be nuts. I need a real estate license like I need a hole in the head. I was really more into internet lead generation and building websites and looking for my next internet project. And I'd founded a couple internet companies in the 90s and so on and so forth. So, but he wasn't going to take no for an answer. And so initially, Hugh Brawford is his name. He said, well, what's it going to take? And at the time, I was between gigs, and I was like, well, if you guarantee me, $3,000 a month, then I'll consider it. And he said, fine. And then he actually made me promise to not tell anybody, but I figure after 13 years, the statute of limitations sort of ran out on it. But he asked me to get my license, and I had to study for the 60-hour license exam, and I still wasn't really excited, and I said, Hugh, I could do website design work for $60 an hour. He says, I'll pay you $60 an hour, go get your license. But even before that, I told him, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus exclusively on the internet. I'm not going to be doing the more traditional real estate approach, which obviously is very successful for a lot of people. So I certainly, I'm not suggesting that it's not a great way to build a business, because it certainly is, and there's lots of examples. However, I said, I'm not going to wear my realtor pin to the grocery store. I'm not going to do open houses. I'm not going to be mailing my friends and family. I'm going to focus on the internet, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to leave and go and do a different project. So that was really how I got in the business. But between April 29th and the end of the year, I sold 17 properties to clients that I met online, which made me Rookie of the Year at the office I was at. It was all 100% on the buy side. I generated them on our own websites. And then in 2003, I ended up selling about $7.3 million worth of real estate my first full year. So about $210,000 in gross commission income. So a really good year. And in 2004, ended up looking at a number of different models. The office that I was in was not team friendly, wasn't offering equity or any of the things that we offer, revenue share, any of that stuff. But not that that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a good place to grow a team at the time. And so the most team friendly company was Keller Williams at the time. And so that next year, I don't know what the production was in 2004, but by 2006. We had a team that did in excess of $60 million in production, virtually exclusively via the internet. So started our first iteration firm in 2007, which was Buyer Tours Realty. We did $73 million. We ran it as a team. In 2008, of course, the market turned, and then we started to build this next generation real estate model, which is eXp. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a history, but I have generated literally tens of thousands, if not, well, actually, it's in excess of 100,000 internet leads over the years. And I still think that for an agent who doesn't have an existing sphere of business, is maybe a little bit more introverted relative to initial contact, meaning that if you've got I'm the type of person that's fairly kind of introverted in a way where I'm not out kissing babies and squeezing the flesh. That's not my thing. But if somebody expresses a need, an interest in real estate services, and right now I'm not an active realtor, but running the company. But if somebody expresses a need, I'm like dog on bone, servicing them until I help them through that transaction. So if somebody expressed online that they were interested in buying a home, I'm really, really good with that. I'm not great at developing the sort of the networking style relationships. So for me, the internet just made a lot of sense, and that's where I focused my time and attention, and it's certainly paid off over the years. The presentation that I wanted to do today is a little bit outside of the core. I think the core to internet lead generation is obviously having a good website, which we do. Well, every agent in eXp has a conversion-based website, and driving traffic and generating leads is actually fairly easy using the platform. And if you take the time, and there's a bit of a learning curve, just like anything else, but if you take the time to actually learn it and understand it, learn how to drive your own traffic, generate your own leads, you will, as they say, you'll be a person that can fish, as opposed to somebody who's being given fish. And so the idea is that, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. So what I'd like to do is make sure that we are coming up with ideas and strategies that ultimately allow you to feed yourself for a lifetime. And so some of the things that we talk about in here are going to be, how do you manage a pay-per-click campaign? How do you drive traffic to your website? How do you convert those leads to close transactions, etc.? So, and there's tons of people in here that can help with that. But one of the strategies, and you'll see that the title of my presentation here is "Stay in front of your past clients in Sphere on Facebook for $1 a day." And one of the challenges that we have as agents is that our emails don't make it to our client's inbox anymore. I mean, they do make it to the inbox, but they get filtered, they get spammed, they get ignored, they fall off the radar. The attention to that is fairly minimal, and as a result, when a client gets ready to list or buy a home, a lot of times they're still choosing another agent. So email is not as effective a medium as it used to be. I don't know what your inbox looks like, but if I show you my inbox, I mean, you'll sit there and go, well, how could you even get anything done? And Google does a pretty good job of sorting emails out into important and not important. But if you're doing a newsletter, if you're doing some sort of drip campaign, a lot of those are going to go into either not important or, worse yet, could go into spam. And so your client won't even know that you sent them an email to begin with. So we want to sort of circumvent that whole problem. And we want to be front and center in our clients' minds when it comes time to buy. And so you'll see, and I apologize, I'm sort of nursing a cold here. You'll see on the right-hand screen, and you can click into it. And you'll see what's called audiences there. So go ahead and click on that. I'm gonna walk you through something that I saw the other day, and I'll see, maybe Facebook will show it on a lot of times they'll show it on the screen here. Let's see. You'll see I run a lot of. You'll see on the right-hand side here that I run a fair number of ads in that upper right-hand corner. So I ran an ad. In addition, I also manage some of the social media outreach relative to the public company side. So those of you who are interested in the public company side, definitely reach out to me even after this presentation. I can help you with becoming a larger shareholder. I think right now, by the way, is a great time to pick up some shares if you haven't done so. The stock came under a little pressure the last couple of days, and so there's an opportunity there. But that being said, I run a lot of ads and marketing relative to our investor relations side. So some of the stuff you'll see is relative to investor relations, but it applies 100% on the for your personal business. So when you get into Facebook, a lot of times, I don't know if you're an advertiser, you probably have seen this, but you can actually now create an audience on Facebook that will actually market to your specific database. So if you have a list of past clients, if you have a list of people in a particular neighborhood that are homeowners, and you've got their email addresses, you can do some really, really neat stuff on Facebook that wasn't able to be done earlier. And I don't know when they introduced this exactly, but when I saw this the other day, I got really excited. And so if you click on, and by the way, over on the left-hand margin, when you go into Facebook, you'll see over here, you'll see Ad Manager. And so over on the left side, you'll see Ad Manager. And if you click on Ad Manager, you'll be able to manage your ads. But where it gets kind of interesting is when you do what's called, when you go up to Tools. So up in this up at the top under Tools, you'll see a pull down, and under this pull down, you'll see a link called Audiences. And so if you go ahead and click on that, and again, one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we recorded it, because when you come in and when you want to do this yourself, you're going to want to go through the same sort of process and go through these. And if you miss a step, you'll be able to go back and review the video. But once you get into Audiences, there's some really cool things that you can do. Over here on the left-hand bar, you can see the button that says Create Audiences. And we want to create a custom audience. So that's the audience that we're going to talk about at the moment. We'll talk about some other audiences here. I know we've got probably the better part of an hour to talk about this, but we'll talk about some of the other audiences. But if you click on Custom Audience, you'll get a pop-up. And this pop-up, when you actually read the content of this pop-up, hopefully you as an individual agent that has a database will start to get excited. This first one in the pop-up is called Customer List. And Customer List allows you to match emails, phone numbers, Facebook user IDs, or mobile advertiser IDs to pay people on Facebook. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Facebook actually no longer allows you to upload Facebook user IDs. So you're not able to sort of stalk people and put a bunch on a list. But if you have their email addresses, which hopefully, if you have been communicating with someone, you've got their email address. And so if you click on this, you can upload a file that has all of their email addresses. You can do it in what's referred to as a CSV file, or you can copy and paste a custom list. So phone numbers, emails, Facebook user IDs. I guess it suggests that you can still do it, or you can import from MailChimp. So if you've got your database in MailChimp, and again, a lot of times you're going to send a MailChimp campaign, and people aren't going to read it. I mean, they're going to know it's a newsletter. They're going to know it's a whatever. It's not going to really resonate with them. They'll just think it's, to some extent, a little bit of spam. But you can take that database and import it right into Facebook. So here, and again, you'll notice here that you can choose a file to upload, and the data type, it's emails, app users, phone numbers, or mobile advertiser IDs. Well, the only two that we'll usually have access to is emails and phone numbers. So if you and a lot of people don't include their phone numbers when they sign up on Facebook. So emails is probably the most powerful method of being able to create a target audience. So you take your let's just say that you've got 500 people in your database that you want to be able to do business with. They're in your local sphere. They're people that may buy or sell property or what have you. You take that email list and now you upload that to Facebook, and that creates an audience. And so once you're done, Facebook does what they call it. They'll hash the data, meaning that they'll compare it to all the other Facebook users that they have until they put together your custom audience. But once your custom audience is built, you can now start to run ads directly to those particular individuals. So you could call it, and if you start to segment your list, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. If you start to segment your list, you can start to segment them based on farms, market areas. So if you market in a luxury market, or maybe you want to break into a luxury market, you need to get a database. I think Facebook may require the database to be at least 100 people to be a custom audience. I'm not sure what the minimum threshold is, but I've seen 100 on a couple things. So at least 100, you'll be safe. But let's say that there's a market, and you're going, well, how the heck do I get their email addresses? Well, I mean, one way, quite honestly, is to go and door knock. I mean, I used to do that at one time, but it's not my most exciting activity on the planet, quite honestly. But if I wanted to build a database of people in a particular market, I would figure out some item of value that I could use to go and actually meet with people in that particular market, go and knock on doors, and make sure that I gathered their email addresses. Make sure that I get at least, you probably want to get 125 to 150. When I did door knocking, I figured that I could get 10 contacts a day in about a 2-hour period of time. If I was door knocking between, 4:30 and 6:30. So in a 2-hour period of time, I could get, 10 contacts. And if I was having a conversation with people, some of them might actually want to do business, which is positive as well. But if you don't have a database, you have to figure out how to get that database. And so, you can go, into the trenches and literally build that person by person, or maybe you've built the database from social media. Maybe you've done some different things that to build that database. But once you've built that database, you can now start to market them on Facebook. So we've all seen.
Glenn, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Regarding building the database on a CSV file, that's how you're doing it, right?
Exactly.
Are you doing anything other than the basic CSV or Excel, first name, last name, email, phone, cell, home, whatever it would be? Is there anything special that you're doing on these databases, like a template?
So if you're building this database, one is you can build this database anywhere. I mean, you could build it literally in Google Contacts if you wanted to, but and then assign them to a particular category or a particular circle, and then you can export that database. But all Facebook cares about in this particular case is the email address. They don't care about first name, last name, any of the other contact info. So when you upload that database, you can, in all likelihood, just strip out all that other data and just upload a group of email addresses and then put them into whatever that category is by title. So if it's homeowners and whatever that market is or that farm area is, you could create that as a custom audience. And so when you list a home or when a property comes up for sale there or what have you, you can start to run ads that they'll see. You say, did you know that this home just came up for sale in your neighborhood? It could be somebody else's listing, but it could pop up on Facebook, and then you click through and come over to your website and sort of target from that perspective. So there's a lot of really interesting ways you can sort of segment this market.
Thank you.
So once you've got this database sort of up and running, you can now click on, and I'm just going to. By the way, there's some other cool things that you can do. I've got, if you can see this mouse over, you can actually put a little custom piece of code on your website if you've got control of your website, where you can actually track anybody who has visited your website in a period of time. So I've got it in this case, anyone who's visited the website in the last 180 days, and now I can market to them on Facebook. So there's a little tracking pixel, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But once you're in an audience, so let's say it's in our market, it might be homeowners on South Hill, and so that's a nice neighborhood, and we've now went and got that 100 people plus into our database. Once you're in there, we can go in there and click on Create Ad, and now we can actually go and create the ad. So we can create the ad. We can send them either to our website. We can promote our business page. We can do a number of different things that we can do it that we want to. So if it was send people to our website, the thing that, you know, if we know the neighborhood they're in and a property just came up for sale in their neighborhood, you could say send people to your website. Click on that, enter the URL. I'm going to click on promote a page only because it's a little bit easier to do. I'm just going to pick a page here. So I can do some interesting ads and creative. So it'll actually, in this particular case, since I'm sending them to a page, it'll actually do an ad up for me. And so I'm not going to go into ad creation. I think Gabe and the team has probably done a number of classes on how to do ad creation. Conversion will actually create some ads for you depending on what you want to do. That might be of value in this type of activity. But you'll see over here, this is just what came up. But I can now market to anybody who has visited, in this particular case, my website, but this could be anybody in the neighborhood. And I can start to advertise to them, and I can actually go in here, and I can actually set my daily budget at as low as $1. Now, if you've got a fairly small group of people on your database, $1 a day will actually stay in front of them more than enough times. Facebook, generally speaking, when you actually look at how you can optimize for what's called page likes, you can also optimize for clicks. You can do a lot of different optimizations, and then there's also when you're running ads where you're doing website clicks, you can actually optimize for what's referred to as impressions and not clicks, because a lot of times you just want to stay in front of your database. You don't need them to click on the ad, but you want them to see your smiling face. And so let me leave the page here. I'm going to go back to the ad manager and just show you here on the ad manager, and you can use any audience. So we'll come back to audiences. But one of the things that I like to do is when I do a campaign, I'm going to do let's see, send people to your website. I'm going to put in exprealty.com just because. Add a conversion pixel. Let's see. We're not going to do that. We're just going to call website clicks. When you come into and do the campaign, you can come under what's called advanced options. And let me see where it is. There's a way to, or maybe hide advanced delivery. Okay, optimize for impressions. So you'll see this little link here. Since what you're more interested in is to actually stay in front of your clients in a lot of cases, than maybe having them take an action, you might optimize around impressions versus clicks. Also, if you're running a really good ad, by the way, and it does get a lot of clicks, sometimes optimizing for impressions makes sense anyway, because it's less expensive than clicks. Clicks, typically, you pay a certain amount per click, impressions, you pay a certain amount per 1,000. So in this particular case, you can pay $2.45 per 1,000 impressions. And let's say that you've got a database in that particular neighborhood, or maybe it's your entire database, and your entire database is 500 people. Well, if you're spending, as Facebook's recommending, $2.45 per 1,000 impressions for your particular group of people that you're targeting, that's and you want your ad to show up, every 2, 3, 4 days for various folks. That's going to be less than $1 a day. So you start to look at, how can you stay in front of your existing sphere for less than $1 a day. This is a really powerful way to do that. Again, one of the things about Facebook or any of this is that you do have to sort of pick what are you going to master. You don't want to dabble in a platform. If you decide to go in the direction of Facebook, become a Facebook master. As opposed to a Facebook dabbler and an AdWords dabbler or this dabbler or that dabbler. Pick it and start to start to study Facebook from the ground up. There's so many different ways to market using Facebook. I mean, you think about how many, I don't know what the total population on Facebook is, but I know it's big. It's over 1 billion people are on Facebook, and over 50% of the population checks Facebook at least once a day in the United States. So it's a really great place to be able to be in front of your clients. But if you come in here and just dabble a little bit, it might be a little challenging. But if you really start to run ads, measure your marketing spend, measure your results, test until you find something that works, and then scale what works, so that you've got a unfair advantage in your marketplace. That's what I think is really the sort of the upshot of all this. I had an old mentor. His name's Ray Spots, but he and I were doing some direct marketing back in the 90s, and he taught me the concept of take an ad. He would say put $1,000 in the ad, see how it pulls, measure results, run another ad. In this case, again, it was these were postcards, but physical postcards, so it was a little more expensive. In the internet world, you could spend $100 and measure your results, and eventually you're going to stumble on an ad or an idea that ultimately gets lots of traction and creates you a large number of leads. But you're going to have to try a number of different campaigns until you figure out sort of the DNA of the internet user and consumer. Once you start to figure out that DNA, you're going to be able to come up with ad ideas and designs and things that you can do to generate leads more often than not and be successful. But it's really a matter of learning the strategies, trying things out, figuring out what works, see what other people are doing. So if you see another agent in your marketplace come up with an ad, doesn't mean it's effective. It may not be, but at least it gives you an idea of what other people are doing. You can design based on that idea and come up with something. So does this all make sense? This concept. I know some of it's a little bit high level, but some of it's is a little bit more granular on how to go in and set up your actual audience. There you go.
Glenn, can I ask a question?
Oh, for sure.
I'm because of course we are all technology driven here, and times have changed. But when you're marketing to sellers, are you finding that pretty much the old-fashioned farming techniques are going to the wayside?
No, here's the thing. Old-fashioned farming techniques are probably close to as effective as they used to be. Meaning that if you go and I mean you have to demonstrate your value when you're out doing old style farming techniques. Meaning that if you drive up in an old Pinto and you don't look, professional, and whatever it is, there's a presentation portion of it. And then there's the demonstrating that you actually know your stuff. And so there's a need for, providing some backup documentation to say that you're current with what's working in the marketplace today, so that the homeowner or home seller or home buyer will trust and want to use you. And but the individual presentation or the individual prospecting techniques that worked in the past still work. The challenge is that you've got so many people now as individual agents and brokers that use the internet and get really great results. I mean, I was one of those guys. And so for me, I made a religious decision never to make a cold call again, or for all intents and purposes, knock on a door again. But I was only able to make that religious decision because I had such great results with my online marketing strategies. If I wasn't getting results, I would be out knocking on doors, networking, and doing some of the other things until I found something that worked well for me that I could scale. And unfortunately, and I've heard like Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this a little bit, this one-on-one interaction is the least scalable business model that you can apply to your business. Now, does that mean it's not effective? No, it's highly effective. I mean, one-on-one, person-to-person, belly-to-belly, conversations, phone calls, text messages, and marketing trumps any of this internet marketing that I'm talking about. The challenge is that I can contact 1,000 times as many people as an individual who's focused exclusively on old school techniques, and at 1,000 times the individuals, if I can create some good messaging, I can have more business coming through my door than I can manage, and that may not be the case for somebody using old school techniques.
Great, thanks.
So, so that's, any other questions? I mean, I can do a little bit more of a deep dive into any of this stuff, but I can also just work with what we've worked with, and then if anybody's got any questions afterwards, you can certainly reach out as well.
Glenn, any tips on which ones you might start with? If you're a new agent like myself, I'm building my database, so I'm trying to get that CSV file together to be able to start targeting folks. Where would you start? Would you start with, I just don't know where you would start, who you would start with?
So, as an individual, as somebody who's just getting their business started, the thing that you want to recognize that in the first year or so, and there's certainly exceptions to the rule, but your business is going to be more buyer side focused than it is going to be listing side focused. It's that's just the nature of the beast. Sellers, there's past relationships. You may have sold them a home to begin with. There's all of that. And buyers, there's plenty of ways to generate buyer leads. Making It Rain is a great program that can generate you buyer leads literally, within a few hours to a couple days. You should have some leads in your inbox, or you can manage your own personal pay-per-click campaign or lead generation campaign into your into your conversion or other website. And so what I would do is to first of all figure out what ultimately is the goal. Is it if your goal is to become a listing agent, which is a great goal. I quite frankly, I never ever did listings, and you couldn't have got me to take a listing. It just was not something that excited me. I would love working with internet buyers, but I had to come up with my unique selling proposition, how I got them off center, meaning how would I get them to actually want to work with me and build rapport and those types of things. And so you do have to look at, each stage of the business and sort of recognize that, how do you raise the bar, ultimately get those closed transactions. But every business, again, is different. For me, I'd still come back into to doing personal internet lead generation and then working those buyers.
Hey, Glenn.
Patrick.
Good morning. A quick question for you. And what you did when you came in concentrating on the buyer end of it kind of flies in the face of the time management that you can handle 2 to 3 times as many listings as you can buyers. What was your personal advantage that you saw working with the buyers through the internet leads? Did you hire a team of buyer agents to work with them out in the field and offset? Was that the goal behind working the buyer end of things versus listings exclusively?
Yeah, so it's real estate coaches almost all say you got to list to last, and it's fine advice. I don't have any challenges with that advice, and everybody's got a different perspective. I think working with buyers is the most scalable business there is. Maybe not at an individual level, meaning. But one of the challenges with on the listing side is that listing agents you've got a fairly strong persona that tends to be your strong listing agents. And I go back to the E-Myth Revisited, which is a really great book, but you have to develop systems and tools that allow average people to produce above average results. And good listing agents are not average agents. They just aren't. They're a breed of their own, and they tend to have high egos, which actually probably is one of the reasons why they're successful. And so my personality style, my persona as a real estate professional, and I'm sure I could have done that side of it fine as well. I just did, once I learned buyers, it's like I could work with a buyer for 6 to 8 hours and have a paycheck in my pocket. I could work with a seller for 6 to 12 months, spend a bunch of money on the listing, and have it not sell, and some other agent go and list it, and then sell it the next week. I mean, it's sort of so I found buyers to be a more consistent stream of income than working with listings. The other part of working with buyers, and again comes back to my persona, my buyers always love me. Sellers, on the other hand, they need to sell, and if the property's not selling, and then you got to manage a lot of tension from the seller side. So for me, it's really one of what's the value of not being hassled by a high maintenance seller? Well, it's priceless. So that's for me the way that I approached it, and now if you look at a lot of the top producing teams are really high on the buyer side, meaning that their percentages of buy sides versus sell sides is 80+% buy side, 10 to 15% sell side, 20% sell side. And so but the internet changes the model so significantly that you can build a really great business on the buy side. And yeah, for sure, scale up with buyer's agent. You're going to have to coach and mentor and train them. You're going to have to help them with help them with the conversation, help them with the dialogue, help them with the value adds and things like that. But if you can do all that, you've got a much more scalable business. And then you can bring in your dedicated listing specialist, that high ego person, high I, that the person that really does really well on the listing side. But you only need about one listing specialist on a team to about every 5 or 6 buyer's agents, and then you really do have that sort of that team mentality. And just for me, as a team when I was running it. I mean, I just really didn't have an interest in listening. So and I think it was partially because I'm a bit of a rebel. If somebody says you can't make if you can't build a business on buyers, well, them there are fighting words, because I'll go show you how to do it.
So, Glenn, is the game changed around 2008 with the the internet getting the one-to-many media paradigm shift, I guess. And I'm old school. I was knocking on doors 30-some-odd years ago, doing the one-to-one. But when you're working with the buyers exclusively, it's a function, is it not, of the numbers of leads that you get on the buyer end, so that you can pick and choose the ones that are 5-star prospects to work with, that are serious, looking to take a home off the market, qualified, know what they want, so that you're working with folks that are focused as you are. So that time frame working with buyers goes up because of the quality of the leads and the number of leads that you get. Was that what you experienced when you just concentrated on the buyer end of things?
So I think the piece for me, first and foremost, as a real estate agent, if you've got enough leads, the serious buyers will show up. Meaning that but if you don't have very many leads, I would rather have someone active in working with some clients to begin with, even though they may not be quote unquote 5-star prospects at this point, but at the same time spending a significant portion of their day doing additional lead generation, because you'll automatically trade up to a 5-star client. I mean, I never said I'm looking for a 5-star client. I mean, we all know that we're looking for a 5-star client, but I didn't measure it and say this, and this. By the way, I never got my buyers pre-qualified before I showed them properties. I didn't, because I figured that and it turns out the internet consumer, if you've got a good website and you're doing good internet lead generation, most of them are going to be good clients, because they're not there to waste your time. You'll get I probably 4 or 5% of them were wasting my time. Not to say that I sold 95% of my clients. Not saying that. I'm saying that the 95% of them were serious. They wanted to buy something. They weren't sure about the time frames. They weren't even maybe sure about the cities in some cases that they were moving to, but they were actively looking to purchase at some point in the future. And I ended up converting personally around 20% of the leads that I worked. Now, I didn't work all the leads, but and I had a way that one of the philosophical positions that you want to have put in place is you got to figure out a way so that the clients or the leads can sort themselves out, not you sort the leads out. If you're generating 500 leads a month, the last thing you want to do is call 500 leads. You want to figure out a way that those 500 leads can start to sort themselves out. Conversion does an actually pretty good job of that. I've talked to Adam Bogle, just using one person. He doesn't even call the leads. He just lets conversion wait until the client actually reaches out and says, I'm interested in a property. So he lets conversion do all that sort of the early stages and so on. I think $300 or $400 marketing spend, he's already generated $12,000 or $15,000 worth of closed transactions, and he never called a single one of the leads in conversion.
I'm working with David Gagnon, measuring my metrics on the Buyer Making It Rain program too, Glenn. I'm at 9.8% either sold, under agreement, or buyers actively working with me, and I'm right in that neighborhood. I've got a closing next week and then one next month. That'll put me, I believe, up around 20,000 return on investment for the 500 I've got in. So that is such a powerful tool, and I'm still learning the bells and whistles of it, how to maximize the potential of it. But that is a great, great tool, one that I'll never give up.
Yeah, and the thing is you got to figure out how to make it work for you. So if you're not busy, and you've obviously you've got your sphere, and you've got your business that you've been doing in the past. You've been a professional realtor, and that comes out in the conversations that you have with the folks that you talk to. In the earlier stages, you're not going to be as effective, and so you're going to generate a lot of leads, and your closing ratio is going to be 2%, 3%, and eventually it will get to that 8, 9. 10% range, but that's part of just, it's like I did martial arts for 26 years, coached for a long time, but everybody has to start at a white belt. And in judo, that basically means you get thrown by everybody in the club because you're not good enough to throw anybody. And then eventually you get your green belt, and then your brown belt, and eventually your black belt, and pretty soon you're throwing everybody in the club and nobody can throw you. So it's just sort of that, you work on your personal skill set, and you start wherever you start. But if you stay at it long enough and you're diligent and you're working on personal, professional development, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're landing every client. But there's an investment, there's multiple investments that we have to make in this business. I mean, lead generation is actually probably it's probably the one we talk about the most, but it's probably the least important of the places we should be investing. Probably the most important place that we should be investing is in understanding the sales process, and understanding the words and phrases that we use and how we interact and move people through a sales pipeline. I use the phrase, "There's nothing in real estate that can't be solved with a little bit more lead generation." I say that in reality because if you're in contact with enough clients over time, eventually you're going to figure this stuff out. I mean, it's not. Sales techniques is just two people telling you the stuff that they did wrong or right, and trying to adopt that. But you'll figure it out. It's like dating. How many of us are good daters when we first went on our first date? And then, eventually, we actually figured it out, and, people actually started to like us and actually want to go on second dates with us and all that type of stuff. So it's just, it's one of those things you have to figure out that sales process. And if you start to look at, if you're spending X, whatever the X is, maybe you're spending $500 a month on lead generation, you should be spending, $500 a month on personal development. If you're not there yet, if you're not at the point where you need to be from in terms of being able to convert those leads to close transactions, invest in yourself. That's an investment that will pay dividends your entire lifetime and make your $500 a month you're spending on lead generation much more effective and go that much further. So, just think about, lead generation is one thing, but also think about, how are you investing in yourself? What books are you reading? How are you developing your own personal book of scripts and dialogues, things that work when you come across those objections that you run into, and you go, darn it, I've run into this objection 3 times now, and I screwed it up all 3 times, and the client doesn't want to work with me. Well, figure out what the heck he can say next time so that you handle it. And we've all been there. Every one of us has been at that point, but you do have to have your own, whether you call it a personal journal. I had a personal journal for years where I'd write down objections that I would get, and I'd work out the scripts to sort of manage those objections. And the best time to handle an objection is before it even comes up, because if you already brought it up, then guess what? Your potential lead and client can't bring it up. So if you're hearing the same thing over and over again, then you need to figure out a way to handle it before it comes up in the conversation, so they can't use that as a way to back away from doing what it is that they hired you to help them do, just to buy a home and or list a home and sell it. So let's go ahead.
My other question was, I think I understand how to do these ads that you're talking about. But what kind of things are you actually posting that you think that the clients and spheres are going to want to see just to stay in front of them on a daily or a weekly basis? Like, what kind of ads would you be running?
Yeah, you know, I would do a number of different ads that some of it's going to be just human interest kind of stuff. Others are going to be, you know, you are going to be relative to a property that might have been listed in their neighborhood or something you listed. So you want to mix this up. The idea of just staying in front of your sphere isn't to sell them anything at this point in time, because a lot of them aren't looking to buy and sell. But you do want to stay in front of them so when it comes time for them to buy and sell. So you want to think about really a mix of stuff. You want you want them to, you know, want to refer their friends and family to you. I would put in front of every one of your sphere members, and you may not be able to physically do this, but ask from their perspective based on what I'm seeing on Facebook on a scale of 0 to 10. How likely is it that I would refer, in your case, Donovan Mitchell to a friend or family member? And so that being sort of the backdrop, the metric. Now, if everything is about, you know, is all about, you know, here's a listing, here's a listing, here's a listing, it's probably not going to take them into the 9 or 10 category, which is what's referred to as the promoter area of that score. If you're promoting an event or an activity that's a charitable event in the local market, well, that gets you brownie points out the wazoo. You know, so think about what is it that you're doing to give back in your community? How are you drawing attention to that? How are you encouraging others to be part of that? And then weave in there, obviously, the fact that you're an active real estate agent and you're doing all these things, but how you pay your bills is by selling real estate. So, you know, if you can, you know, send me some business, friends and family, yourself, whatever. I'd love to work with them so that I can, you know, continue to do all these other things which are good for the community, good for, you know, and you know, could be any number of things. I mean, if you're a Boy Scout leader or you know, or any number of different things, just think about what is it that you're doing in your community that they should know about, that's outside of real estate, that's a positive to the overall, and then make sure they also know you're a real estate professional.
Excellent information. Then the last question is, would you be doing this on a personal page or on your business Facebook page?
I do a little of everything. I would, you know, and it's not about putting out lots of content to these folks. You just want to make sure that they're aware of you, because some of them aren't going to do business with you next time, no matter what you do. So but you don't know who they are and who they're not. But you want to make sure that at least you stay top of mind. You're part of the conversation, and you figure out a way that you're providing value to your community. That's the one thing that I think a lot of people sort of lose sight of, is that we are, for all intents and purposes, the ambassadors of our community to the world. And so if there's a way to put that out there as well, nobody benefits as much as a real estate professional to the growth of a city or market. So, you know, there's a number of different sort of angles. You just kind of got to figure it out. I built community portals. I built, you know, I did a lot of inbound lead generation. I've done a whole bunch of different things. And it's really to figure out what your mix is that works best for you. And that's just going to come from trial and error. Okay, well, I think our leadership meeting starts in 1 minute. So let's go ahead and jump. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.